What is IELTS? This is a blended learning presentation from Reading College talking about the IELTS course we run here, online and in the college. So what is IELTS? Well, it stands for International English Language Testing System, and it's used by universities and institutions worldwide. Hundreds of institutions and universities recognise it and use it to allow students to join their courses. It provides a fair, accurate and relevant assessment, testing skills and abilities in students worldwide based on common criteria that have been developed by Cambridge University and its associates over many years. It uses a 9-band scale. That means that there's no way to pass IELTS. Instead, it shows where your ability is on it. And believe it or not, over 1.5 million tests are taken every year worldwide. And this number is growing all the time as more and more universities globally say the IELTS is the standard we want for people who need to use English. So, what does it test? Well, you probably know this already. It tests your reading skills, your writing skills, your listening skills, and your speaking skills. But there are two types of IELTS exam. There's the academic and there's the general. In this course here at Reading College, we train you for the academic skills. This is because this is the one you need, or most likely to need, going forward in your career or going to university. The general IELTS itself is usually used for people who are emigrating, particularly those who are going to Australia. So let's look at the listening first of all. Okay, well the listening exam is only 30 minutes long, so it's not very long at all. In it you do 4 tasks, and those tasks can be from a text, they can be a monologue, that is one person speaking, or they could be conversations. And quite typically they're based around the type of conversation or the type of thing you might hear on university campuses or academically. And what you do, of course, is you answer questions after that. In another presentation we'll look at the listening exam in a bit more detail. For the reading, you have an exam that is 60 minutes, an hour long. And you have 3 long texts to read. These are several thousand words in total. And they're taken from authentic, real sources. That means books, journals, newspapers and magazines. But they are anything from descriptive writing and factual writing to discursive and analytical writing. So it covers a wide range of the types of readings you'd expect to encounter in real life. But fortunately, you don't need to be an expert in the topics. These are designed for someone who's reading them from a general reader's perspective. That means that you don't need any expert knowledge. Let's just look at the writing. In this one, again, it's 60 minutes long. And you have 2 tasks to do. You have the first task, which contains a graph, a chart, a table or a diagram. This is the short writing. It's usually about 150 words long. And you have to describe or summarize or explain the information. And again, another presentation will look at what you have to do in this part of the writing. Task 2 is a bit longer, it's 250 words, and it's an essay, and it's in response to someone's point of view, an argument, a discursive argument, or a problem which requires a response. And both tasks require, of course, formal writing, because it is the academic paper. In the speaking, this is only between 11 and 14 minutes long, and has 3 parts. The first part is quite general. That's to get you into speaking. So, of course, we understand that when students go into exams, they usually feel quite nervous. So the first questions are quite straightforward. They're about your personal, about familiar topics, your family, work, interests, and so on. Part 2 is a presentation, and that one you have up to a minute to prepare, and then you give a formal presentation that's quite short, and the examiner can also ask you questions. Part 3 extends upon the topic of Part 2, and it's a discussion between the examiner and the student, so you discuss in more detail about the topics that come up, and we'll talk about the topics that do appear in IELTS in another presentation. So, what types of questions do you have? Well, obviously in the writing you are writing in response to it, but in the reading and listening you have different types of question. They can be multiple choice, matching, where you have to put information to text, or to matching what one person says or their opinion to an answer. You can be identifying information, especially in listening, where you're trying to pick out key pieces of information. You can be labeling a diagram, and you also have sentence completion as well, and also table and chart completion, particularly in the reading exam. So how about the scoring? Well, once you've done the exam, you get a score that ranges from 0 to 9, and the higher your score, the more proficient you are. That means your English is, as it were, being tested and seen to be better if you get a higher score. You can also get half scores, so for example 4.5 or 5.5 and so on. And you are scored in each part, and then you get an overall score. So we take the 4 scores from it, add them together and divide by 4. So for example 4.5, let's say you get that in listening, you get a 5 in reading, you get a 5.5 in speaking and a 5 in writing. Add them all together and you end up with an overall score of IELTS 5. So what is it for? Well, what most of our students use it for is university entrance. Universities within Britain recognise the IELTS as the standard entry requirement, although there are other exams as well that are accepted. But also we have plenty of doctors and nurses who require IELTS to go on to practice here in the UK. So GP practices and hospitals require their nurses and doctors to get a standard within IELTS. But also professional situations. For example, some accountancy firms, and not just in the UK but worldwide, want their staff to have an IELTS score of a suitable standard, meaning they can communicate with other staff members or with clients and customers worldwide. And the target for university entrance, and one typically looked for from professional situations as well actually, is somewhere between 6.5 and 7.5, and it can vary from institution to institution, or whether you're going in for your first degree or you're going for a postgraduate degree. That's the end of this presentation. I hope you look at the rest